The GRQ podcast, episode 91, is all about Clubland Stories, including pressing a ball into the ground, Canadian foursomes, individual hole score on a stableford, and removing the flagstick that was left in the hole when the stroke was made. So grab a cuppa, sit back and listen to Blakey and podcast go through the juicy Clubland Stories for episode 91. Golf is a test of character before it is a test of skill, and playing by the rules of golf will definitely test your character. Hey everyone, welcome back to the GRQ podcast, episode 91. Can you believe it? Alongside me is Podcast McPhee. How are you, Podcast?
I'm very well, Blakey. Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yep, good. Can't believe we got to 91, but just keeps rolling on. A lot of people listen to definitions part 1 and part 2 the last couple of weeks, probably as they're just trying to fall asleep at about 10:59 at night and just couldn't quite get over the edge, and then put the old definitions on. 3 minutes later, they were fast asleep. So well done to those people. That's a service. It's a public service podcast. This podcast helps put people asleep. Helping put people, that's our tagline, helping put people asleep since 2021. So what do we got? We're moving on from reading off the text, and we're going to talk about some Clubland stories. We've got a few Clubland stories. We'll try and get through as many as we can. Otherwise, if we don't, we'll just knock it on into next week. But firstly, the GolfRules question of the week for episode 90. Yeah, that's
Which
it.
was
Episode 90.
Which was 90. Andy, the average golfer, hits his tee shot way through the green on the par 3 fifth hole, no doubt at Wombat Hills. As it may be lost in the thick bushes, he announces and plays a provisional ball, which lands on the green around 6 metres from the hole. As the group arrives at the green, Andy announces that he does not want to look for his original ball and is declaring it lost. Andy plays his provisional ball to within 1 metre of the hole, marks and lifts it. Another player sees a ball in the bushes behind the green around 15 metres from the hole, and it is Andy's original ball. Dejected, Andy picks up the marker on the green and completes the hole with the original ball, scoring 5 with that ball. Walking to the next tee, the players discuss what just happened and they consult a referee. What is the ruling?
Yeah, it's a good question, Stuart. So let's go through the answer and most importantly, how many strokes the player has taken. So he's hit his tee shot onto or out the back. He's played a provisional ball, all fine. He's now played the provisional from closer to the hole than where the original was thought to be. We know that from the fact that the provisional was 6 metres from the hole, and even though we didn't know at the time that the original was 15 metres, assuming that it was well out the back and the provisional was nearer the hole. So he's played the provisional, not wanting to go and find the original, and that is now lying 1 metre from the hole, lying 4. That was his 4th shot.
Correct.
Then, this is when the troll starts. Someone else finds his original ball, confirms it is his original ball, and he goes and plays it, which was actually a wrong ball. It was abandoned as soon as he hit the provisional from nearer the hole than where the original was thought to be. So there's a 2-shot penalty, and it's only a 2-shot penalty even though he lifted his marker for the ball in play. So he's lifted the ball and the marker. So there's no reference point on the green for the ball in play, the provisional ball. There's no penalty there because there was no intervening act. It was only the stroke at the provisional ball and then the stroke at the wrong ball with the multiple the 2-shot penalty, which is the maximum that penalty that you would get for those 2 breaches.
So under normal circumstances, lifting your ball marker when you haven't replaced your ball incurs a 1-stroke penalty.
Yeah, correct.
Is that
Now
correct?
he's played out the hole with the wrong ball. The strokes at the wrong ball do not count. And he needs to go and replace the provisional ball and continue play, trying to hole out for a 7. Okay. But if he'd played the original ball, which was a wrong ball, and then lifted the marker of the provisional ball, the actual ball in play, that would have incurred another stroke penalty because there would have been an intervening act.
Yeah. Just the order in which he did stuff saved himself a stroke.
And so then he would have been actually putting for an 8, not a 7.
Yeah.
So he's actually lucky he saved himself. Andy, the very, very average golfer.
So as they're walking off the green and they consult a referee would have said, well, you haven't holed out because you can't hole out with the wrong ball. So you need to actually go back and hole out with your ball in play.
Yeah, correct.
And then, of course, there's no ball marker to mark the spot. You'd have to, roughly just guess where that spot was?
Yeah, estimate where the ball was at rest and then just place that back down and try and hole out for 7 in this case.
Good.
Excellent. Right.
Sorry, and I think we had a few people answer that correctly, didn't we? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we did. Let me just check.
Which is good.
Yeah, we had Steve. He reckons he read the question and misheard the question 3 times, but we got there in the end, which was good. And Ruin from Denmark, he got it right, which was great. And DC had a go at it as well. So we had a few get it right, which was really good. Okay, so actually talking about DC, he gave me a bit of a twister the other day that I had no idea about because they've changed it. And it's all about pressing a ball into the ground. So a player in taking relief, the ball's rolled outside the relief area twice, drop, rolled, redrop, rolled. So he has to place it on that spot where it first hit the ground. When he placed it, it didn't stay at rest. So he tried to place it again, didn't stay at rest. So this time he pushed it into the ground to make it stay at rest. It actually didn't stay at rest. And then he placed it somewhere else where it did stay and played it. But the question asked of me, what happens, about pushing the ball in the ground? We know that you're not allowed to push the ball into the ground. But whereas it used to be a penalty 5 years ago, the penalty is only incurred if you play from the spot where you've pushed the ball into the ground. And that would be playing from a wrong place because it's not so much about altering the ground. It's about the fact that you're not allowed to play from an indentation
5 millimeters lower than you should be.
Yeah, correct. Because that's not a place that you could ever play from unless you create that place. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. So, and I didn't know the answer to this, so I went and had a look and actually asked a few colleagues, if you alter the ground like that, then goes under 14.2 E or D?
D, is it?
Yeah. The one that doesn't
replacing
stay at rest.
ball that's altered. Oh, it's E.
Yeah, the one that doesn't stay at rest is E, and the altered lie is D.
D.
So 14.2 D, altered lie. So you've altered it, and now you have to. It has been altered, and now if it's in sand, you just recreate the lie. But if it's not in sand, you actually have to find the lie most similar to the original lie that is in the same area of the course, not nearer the hole, and within a club length of its original spot. So that's something that I learnt in the last couple of weeks, which has been great. No penalty for doing that unless you actually leave it in that indented spot and play from that wrong place.
So fortunately for him or the person, it didn't come to rest in that spot.
Yeah, that's right. But also DC actually gave the correct ruling, but then asked me for confirmation, and I didn't know. So yeah, it was good. I learned something along the lines of that. Now getting into okay, so we've got a few clublands to get through, which is great. First up is our one of our favourites, Two Bob. Okay, the rules situation: to wipe or not to wipe. Playing Stableford, Forgetful Frank with a handicap of 20 scores an 8 on a par 4. When marking his scorecard, he realizes that he doesn't get 2 strokes on this hole, just 1. So his adjusted part is 5. As he scored more than 6, he doesn't get a Stableford point. Must he record this as a wipe, or can he record it as a 7, as that is a 0 Stableford score for him too? Or must he record it as an 8? And if he records it as a 7, is he disqualified for submitting the wrong score on a hole? What action was taken to resolve this? Often Forgetful Frank will record this as a 7, as it is a 0 score and allows him to calculate his total score the way Golf Australia does for handicapping purposes. So he scores an 8 on a par 4. So on a par 4, he only gets 1 shot on this. In this case, playing off handicap of 20, he only gets 1 shot. So 5 for 2, 6 for 1. So the answer is he must not record it as anything lower than a 7. He could put a 7 on there. He could put an 8. He could put a 15. He could just put a wipe. He could put 0, even though 0 doesn't actually make any sense. But the most important thing is the actual whole score just must not be something that would show up as a point.
That yields a score, yeah.
That yields any kind of Stableford score. That's a great way to put it. Podcast, nice work. Because so you can't get the individual score wrong if it equals or equates to 0 points. So not putting any score on there equates to 0 points, and you won't get disqualified for that. I hope that's a pretty quick question, quick answer type thing. Anything to add there, podcast?
No, not really. No, not really. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Just make sure it doesn't yield 1 or 2 or 3 points when it should be 0.
Yeah,
that's the key. And a lot of people actually don't record a score if they've wiped the hole.
Yeah,
because they typically don't hole out.
Yeah, that's spot on. And just in addition to that, if you get the individual score wrong, the individual hole score wrong, that it yields a higher or could yield a higher score. You've got me saying yield too much now. If it could yield a higher Stableford score than what you actually had, then yeah, disqualification is on the table. But if you write down a score that yields a lower or equal to or lower, then you can't get disqualified. Now, if you write down a higher Stableford score, even though your individual score is correct, but you say you're supposed to have 5 for 2, but you put 5 for 3, you can't get disqualified for that.
No.
Okay. Not now, not ever.
Committee's responsibility.
That's committee, and it always has been. So we'd suggest that you try and get it right. We'd hope that you do. But these things happen. But just make sure your responsibility is on the individual hole score, and just make sure that is never higher than you ever, or never lower, never better. That's a better way to put it. Never better than you actually had. Good one too, Bob. Thank you. All right, another one from DK. Mixed Canadian foursomes format. Here we go. A variation of foursomes where both players on a side tee off in each hole, then they select one ball and play alternate shot until hold. Men playing from the blue tees and women playing from the red tees. I think I know where this is going. Both players on a side hit their tee shots out of bounds on the par 3 7th hole.
Stop reading ahead.
Unsure. No, I was just reading. They both hit it out of bounds. You can just imagine. You're sitting on the tee with your partner. You've hit off first, hit it out of bounds, and you're just hoping,
okay.
just get the ball in play. Just get the ball in play.
Yes, exactly.
Pulled
Anywhere.
it out of bounds. Oh, I can just imagine. That's horrible. Anyway, unsure how to proceed, both players decide to re-tee from their respective teeing areas. Mr. Player A hits into a bunker, then Mrs. Player B hits onto the green. The team choose Player B's ball, and Player A putts into the hole. They record a score of 4 strokes and proceed to tee off on the next hole. It sort of gives the answer on the next one. Let's just go through it, just the two of us. So it's Player A, Mr. Player A hits from the blue, Mrs. Player B hits from the red. They both hit it out of bounds. Now, they have to choose which ball they want to take. Okay? One of them has to hit it, right?
Mm.
And you would assume, and this could be very sexist, and I
know what you're about to say, though.
but you would assume that, I'll save myself. The better player should probably tee off next off the
other
tee. But also consider if Mr. Player A is a handicap of 18 and Mrs. Player B is a handicap of 11, now also take into account Mrs. Player B would be playing off from the blues and Mr. Player A would be playing off from the reds. The sexist part is you would assume that would be more of an advantage having Mr. Player A play further forward.
Walk forward. Mm.
Than Mrs. Player B having to play further back. And that is on the assumption that the blues are behind the reds, as they most commonly are. You would think that the better option would be, but if I was playing with Minji Lee and she was my foursomes partner, mixed foursomes partner, I would probably say, hey, Minji,
go for a walk.
Yeah, you come back to my tee and play. Right?
Yes,
she's
I think so.
7,000 times better than I am. Right? But if she was playing with Min Woo, maybe it might be better if Min Woo tees off from the red. That's all I'm saying. Right, the actions that were taken to resolve the situation. So do we understand that? So you've both played a shot. So Canadian foursomes, the next shot, only one person can play, and you just have to play from the last from the place where the chosen ball has come to rest. Well, the chosen ball's come to rest out of bounds. That means stroke and distance. You've got an option of which one's you're going to choose. Choose that option. Now, the action that was taken, the pair report the facts to the committee. At the end of the round, the committee disqualify the side under Rule 22.3 for making a stroke in the wrong order and not correcting their mistake. The side should have chosen to take one of the out-of-bounds tee shots. Let's say Mrs. Player B's shot, then Mr. Player A would hit the next stroke, third stroke, from the place previously played by Player B, the red tees. Exactly right. And why did they get disqualified?
Because sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say because they played out of order and they're played out of order, and playing out of order in foursomes is the equivalent of an individual playing a wrong ball. You've got to correct it.
Which shot was the shot that they played out of order?
It would have been the second one on the second round, so to speak. Actually, round's a bad choice of words. But when they're both hit out of bounds and they're both going to hit again, when the second player hit, they've effectively played out of order.
Yeah,
from a wrong place.
So Mr. Player A hits it into a bunker. That ball is now the ball in play in the
Definitely
bunker.
in play, yeah.
Mrs. Player B hits onto the green. That's the shot that's out of order.
Correct.
Right.
So that doesn't count. That shot doesn't count. That ball is not in play.
It's not stroke and distance because it was the wrong teeing area.
Yeah. General penalty applied. Yep.
Spot on. So
and they haven't corrected it. It's a great situation though. That's a ripper.
Yeah. It is. It's at he's killed me. I've read ahead now. It actually is a hypothetical situation that I thought would be entertaining. Very entertaining.
Highly entertaining. And even went as far as saying what the committee ruled.
Yeah, that's right. Perhaps it's a wrong place penalty, not wrong order. No, it's well, same. I shouldn't say same. And I realise this Canadian foursomes format is not really covered in the ROG. It is and it isn't. Obviously, it's a merge between four ball and foursomes type thing.
Hang on, I'm going to throw this back now. Have they played out of order?
Have they played out of order, or have they played a wrong ball, or have they played from a wrong place? Well, she's teed it up in the teeing area. So
who hit first? Sorry, the guy hit first the second time.
Correct.
To the bunker.
Correct.
That ball's in play.
Yes.
They haven't played out of order because she played next, but she's put another ball into play in a wrong place.
Wrong place, that's right.
So that ball's in play.
And it was intended to put it into play too.
Definitely. So that's the ball in play.
Played from a teeing area, but it was a wrong teeing area.
Sure, but it could be anywhere. But she's played from a wrong place, but she's put that ball into play.
Yes. Yep. So then you have to work out whether it's serious breach or not serious.
So the question is, have they played out of order or not? I don't think they have. Because after he played into the bunker, she has played the next stroke for the side. They don't think they were doing that. They think they were still exercising their options under the foursomes, under the Canadian foursomes.
That is true.
But she's effectively put a ball into play. That's now the ball in play on the green. And they played from a wrong place. And you wouldn't say it was a serious breach because they should be playing from the bunker.
No. The serious breach is the teeing area that they played from. Oh, you're saying so the ball in play was the bunker and they've gone back to the teeing area, so they've actually disadvantaged themselves.
They have. So they've definitely played from the wrong place. They haven't played out of order because she played next. She just didn't play from where they should have been, where she should have been playing from. She should have been playing from the bunker.
And she's taken stroke and distance, so you're adding a penalty on for that as well?
No. I'm just saying they played from a wrong place.
So they've hit one out of bounds. So they're currently on 2. He hits one from the blue tees. Well, she should have hit from the blue tees. He should have hit from the red tees.
And we assume they've done that?
No. She should have hit from the blue tees. He should have hit from the red.
And didn't they do that?
No. He hit from the blue. She hit from the red.
Again?
Yes.
Huh.
They both decide to re-tee from their respective teeing areas.
Oh, I see. I've missed that bit. Okay. I thought they swapped over, but they didn't.
No, they didn't. So he played from a wrong place there.
Mm-hmm.
Which wouldn't have been a serious breach because he played from, not likely, because if the blue is behind the red.
Sure.
Okay. So that was but then she's then put another ball into play. So let's say this is so confusing. So they're 2 off the tee. Then he hits from the wrong place for the stroke and distance. So that stroke counts. It's not a serious breach. So that's 3 plus the wrong place penalty. So they're in the bunker for 5. Then she goes and tees off from the wrong place, but not under stroke and distance.
Nor out of order.
Like, because the reason it's not stroke and distance is she hasn't played from the previous place played.
No, she just randomly picked another place.
And she didn't have the intention to play stroke and distance. So that's 5. Now we're up to 7. And she's hit it on the green. That is the ball in play.
Mm.
And they put it into the hole for 8. So provided the committee don't think there's any serious breach, and in both of the cases, they went behind where they were supposed to go. So that doesn't automatically say it's not a serious breach, but if I was the committee, I'd say unlikely. So should they have been disqualified? I mean, this is hypothetical, but should they have been disqualified? No, they played within the order. They just played from two wrong places. Not serious breach for 8. Wow, DK, that was a mouthful. Right, we'll try and get through one more, and we'll leave a few Clubland stories for next week as well. Who we got? James, local 3-day tournament. My partner and I came into the final round with a 2-shot lead. In Pinehurst format. Do you know Pinehurst
I've
format?
heard of it, but you'd have to refresh me. It's a foursomes, isn't it?
Yeah, and see, I think Pinehurst is also called American Foursomes. And I think, off the top of my head, see, I get confused with these ones.
Why can't they just play foursomes? It'd be a lot easier.
So foursomes is alternate. So Stuart Blakey, or podcast Blakey. Canadian foursomes, DK
both
just
tee
told
off
us
every
about,
hole.
where you both tee off and then you swap. I think.
Sorry, you both tee off and pick the best, and then alternate from that point.
And
onwards.
then the person who doesn't own that ball hits.
Yep.
I think Pinehurst is also American foursomes, where you both tee off. He'd probably give us the answer. Where you both tee off, you swap, you play the other person's ball, you choose the best ball, and then the person who does own that ball, who teed it off from the tee, plays from there. But he might actually give us the answer. So
it's Canadian, but you take one more shot each with the alternate, and then choose which one to play on from there.
Now,
all out with
the only issue I'm getting confused because there's another one where you play your ball for 2 shots, and then you choose the best ball, and the other person hits it.
Right.
And I don't know which one that's called. Or can't remember. Pinehurst format. Our lead had slipped and we were down 2 shots. So they come into the final round with 2-shot lead. They were now down 2 shots. We had an eagle putt on 13, which was a downhill slider. We picked a line that would give us a tap-in birdie, and my partner decided to leave the flag in the hole. He struck the putt, and as it moved slowly toward the hole, I realized it was tracking and could go in. Oh, no. I moved toward the pin and pulled it despite not being asked prior to the stroke. The putt trickled in, and I was informed by the other twosome in our group that it was a penalty, rule 13.2. The pin would not have affected the putt as it barely fell over the lip. We finished in second place by those 2 strokes. I consider myself someone who has a pretty good grasp on the rules, and I was not aware of that one. Our pro informally polled players, and very few knew the rule. The resolved situation, they were assessed and documented the 2-shot penalty, and it happened in New York. That is correct, James. Unfortunate to say. Even though you can now leave the flagstick in the hole, the rule about whether it's been left in or attended or removed has stayed the same. So if it has been left in, it must be left in that whole time so it can't affect the ball. Whether the ball would have rolled in and not been affected by the flagstick has no bearing on the outcome. If it had been removed, it must be left out. If it's been attended, you can't leave it in. You can pull it out. Sorry, you can't leave it in to affect where the ball comes to rest. So you can leave it in as long as the ball misses the hole. But if it's being attended, most likely you're going to pull it out as the ball is in motion and hold the flag so it doesn't affect the ball. What were you going to say, podcast?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add, backing up what you said, you basically are committed to your decision. So the instant your putter hits that ball, you're stuck with the decision on the flagstick.
Yeah.
If it's in, it's in. If it's out,
good way to put it.
Yeah, you're stuck.
If it's in, it's in. If it's out, it's out. If it's being held, it can never be in to affect where the ball would come to rest. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, and if the ball goes flying past the hole and the flag sticks still in, it's not an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a good one to finish on. We've still got a couple more. Plus, I think I've got a couple of emails that I wanted to shoot through as well.
We didn't expect one of our Clubland stories, and we do love the Clubland stories quite genuinely. We didn't expect one to take up about 20 minutes or however long it took. And it was a hypothetical after all that.
But if you do have, if you're just listening to the definitions, if you're listening, you're actually listening to definitions part 1 and part 2, which, as boring as it was to record, as boring as it sounds, it's so important. If you are listening to that and something just pops into your head, oh, what if this happens? Put it on the Clubland Stories, on that Google form, and we will read it out and we will go through it. And hopefully we'll help ourselves out, but hopefully we help you out as well. So thank you everyone for that. But we've got a couple more that we'll get to next week. Podcast episode 91, GRQOTW, please.
Okay, I just need to find it now. GRQOTW for episode 91 is Big P. Big P hits his tee shot on the par 3 third hole, which comes to rest right at the back of the green, with the hole right at the front of the green around 20 metres away. The green is steep, and his second stroke runs right by the hole off the front edge of the green and comes to rest in a yellow penalty area. Big P decides to play again from the putting green, dropping the ball into the relief area on the green, and holes out in 3 more strokes. What is Big P's score for the third hole?
That's a good one. We should put that on the community question on YouTube as well. I just want to shout out about those community questions on YouTube. I've got them restarted after 3 years of me emailing YouTube and saying, can you please put a quiz option? Can you please put a quiz option? They've finally put a quiz option now. Initially, when we were doing it, I stuck the answer on my website, golfrulesquestions.com, but now I don't have to. So I don't have to push you to my website. You can just stay on YouTube and it'll give you the answer then and there. So we'll try and do one a week. And yeah, you can click true, false, or whatever other options we give you, and you'll be able to find the answer straight away. So, and an explanation as well. So thank you, YouTube, for finally coming to the party. I've also put some other videos up there, and we'll have the drop zone coming out. Hopefully this podcast will be in the drop zone. So you'll hear me and podcast blabber on about these Clubland stories. But the drop zone's going really well. If you know anyone who needs some rules updates, pass on the drop zone, or just send me their email address and I'll slot them into the sign up form. But we really enjoy producing that. Obviously, the Singapore Sling has been up there for a while because I haven't been on tour, but I go away in about 10 days to Spain and London. So a couple of on tour reports coming out after that.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much, podcast, and everyone for listening in for episode 91. Chat again soon.